Now it's time for the last word. Katy Tur is in for Lawrence tonight. Good evening, Katy.
Rachel, that's the stuff that we know about. Let's not forget that there's always breaking news and something pops up that we have no idea about. So rest, hydrate, sleep, drink a lot, whatever you got to do to get through the weekend to prepare yourself for next week.
Because the craziness never ends. Woo!
It does not.
America!
Have fun with Joy tomorrow. Love
Thank
me
you,
some
Katy.
Joy Reid. Rachel, thanks so much.
Thanks.
I'm Katy Tur in for Lawrence tonight, and in this hour, we're taking a special look at what may have been Donald Trump's worst week as president. The week started with the high-stakes summit with Vladimir Putin and questions about whether the Russian president was making a secret recording of the private meeting, and the week ending with breaking news of secret recordings of a much different variety. News that the president's fixer, Michael Cohen, secretly recorded at least one conversation with his boss. Tonight, we'll examine what the Trump tape, perhaps tapes, could mean for the Robert Mueller probe, and if the one tape revealed today actually might lead to specific criminal charges. Also, this dramatic week has brought incredibly serious questions about Putin's hold over President Trump, a Republican Congress, and former CIA agent drawing the conclusion President Putin is, in fact, manipulating the President of the United States, a Republican congressman, I should say. And after this week, what about Donald Trump's hold on the Republican Party in general? Has this week's uproar over the Putin summit finally triggered what one Trump supporter called the rising tide of Trump regret? So much to talk about tonight with our guests, Michael Avenatti, Joyce Vance, Harry Littman, Malcolm Nance, Jason Johnson, Yamiche Alcindor, and Evan McMullen. And we start tonight with the Trump tape, or maybe it is Trump tapes, when FBI agents raided the home office and hotel room of Donald Trump's fixer, Michael Cohen, in April. A worried Trump advisor told the Washington Post, quote, "We heard he had some proclivity to make tapes. Now we're wondering, who did he tape?" Well, today we got the answer when the New York Times posted this headline. Michael Cohen secretly taped Trump discussing payment to Playboy model. Quote, President Trump's longtime lawyer, Michael D. Cohen, secretly recorded a conversation with Mr. Trump 2 months before the presidential election in which they discussed payments to a former Playboy model who said she had an affair with Mr. Trump. The FBI seized the recording this year during a raid on Mr. Cohen's office. The existence of that recording would seem to contradict Donald Trump's denial that he had any knowledge of a payment to the former Playboy model, Karen McDougal, before the 2016 election that kept her from talking about her alleged year-long affair with Donald Trump between 2006 and 2007. A source familiar with the president's legal strategy confirmed to NBC that the president did not know Michael Cohen was recording him on that tape. And CNN reports one source told them, when informed about the recording, Trump said, "I can't believe Michael would do this to me." Despite all of this, Donald Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, claimed that the recording is a good thing for Trump. He said it is, quote, "powerful exculpatory evidence." Giuliani says the recording is less than 2 minutes long and proves the president did not know about the payment to Karen McDougal before his conversation with Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen's lawyer disagrees, tweeting, "When the recording is heard, it will not hurt Mr. Cohen. Any attempt at spin cannot change what is on the tape." Amid the back and forth, Rachel Maddow has just broken a major piece of news about the Trump tape. We know that Michael Cohen's lawyers have argued in court that some of the items seized from him should not be handed over to prosecutors because of attorney-client privilege. Well, tonight, Vanity Fair reporter Emily Jane Fox told Rachel this.
One person familiar with the situation told me this evening that this was deemed privileged by the special master, but that the president's attorneys waived the privilege. I just spoke with Rudy Giuliani, who's the president's attorney, who said he wasn't sure if the special master had deemed it privileged or not, but effectively they waived privilege today by speaking about what was on the tape.
It's all very confusing. And all of this raises potentially bigger worries for the president. What if there are more tapes? What if Robert Mueller gets those tapes? And what would those recordings mean for Donald Trump if Michael Cohen decides to cooperate with federal prosecutors? A person familiar with the president's legal strategy told NBC News the president's legal team is not aware of any other, quote, substantive tapes, But Michael Cohen's friend Sam Nunberg told me this. Michael Cohen recording calls. Is this the only one?
With Donald Trump?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Why?
I doubt it. I think Michael recorded a lot of calls. There was always something, if you talk to Michael, there are people that would even say in Trump org, don't go into Michael's office. He may be recording everything.
Joining us now is Michael Avenatti, the attorney for Stormy Daniels. Michael, you tweeted this today. There's a reason why I used the term that I did and demanded the release of the Trump tapes as opposed to the Trump tape. If Michael Cohen is a patriot, then all of the tapes should be released to the American people. Now, too much is at stake. Michael, what other tapes are there? What else do you know about?
Well, there's multiple tapes, and, nearly 2 months ago, I coined the phrase Trump tapes on the steps of that courthouse, and I demanded their release. That was nearly 2 months ago. This is not the only recording between Michael Cohen and the president. I can assure you of that. There are multiple recordings, and the problem for the president is that Michael Cohen will go down as one of the great hoarders of evidence in modern times. I mean, this is a guy that did not throw documents away. He kept text messages, emails, old cell phones, made it a point to record conversations unbeknownst to the other parties on the phone, all of which does not bode well for the president.
How do you know there are more tapes?
Well, I know it the same way I've known everything over the last, that I've commented on over the last 6 months. I mean, my record is
well, how is that you've known everything? Where are you getting this information from?
Well, I'm active in the case. I mean, this is what I do for a living.
You're not active in this case, though.
Well, I'm representing my client in a whole host of cases, and people share information with me. I've been a repository of information. I'm the one that has broken a lot of information, in fact, most of the information in connection with these cases, because I'm one of the few people that is willing to go on the record and speak publicly about it. So, look, if I'm wrong about that, if there's only one tape, then let the other people involved in the case come forward and contradict me. You're not going to hear it. You're going to hear crickets.
So break something on this show tonight. What else do you have?
Well, I'm not in a position to break something here tonight. 2 months ago, I disclosed the fact that these tapes existed, and I demanded their release, and now the New York Times publishes this article today relating to the single recording. Well,
the Washington Post had it very early on that Michael Cohen had a tendency to record people, so that was out there. I mean, you've posted pictures of a DVD. We've never found out what's on that DVD or CD, whatever that was. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Well, hold on a minute, okay? I'm the one that disclosed a lot of information in connection with this case consistently, and if people look at this, I have an exceptional track record relating to the information that I've disclosed in connection with this case. I've disclosed banking transactions. I have been the repository of information that has been forthcoming in connection with this case, period.
Who does this help, this tape? Does this help Michael Cohen? Could it help the president by distracting from the Helsinki meeting? Who benefits from the release of this tape?
Well, there's no question that it cuts against the president. Evidently he didn't even know he was being recorded in connection with this particular conversation. I think all of this cuts against him. I don't know ultimately whether it will assist Michael Cohen or not. I know that Rudy Giuliani's comments about it being exculpatory, that's just complete nonsense. It's never a good thing when a recording is released that you didn't even know was being made.
Emily Jane Fox is reporting that this was privileged, but that the president's team waived the privilege. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I don't know exactly what she means by that. It does not appear that the privilege was waived prior to its release. I don't know ultimately whether it would have been found to be privileged, frankly, because I don't know that the communication was in the course of providing legal advice as opposed to some other advice. So I'm not exactly sure what she means by a waiver of the privilege, unless what she's speaking about, Katie, is the subsequent communications by Rudy Giuliani relating to the content, in which case there could have been a waiver, but at that point, it occurs to me that the disclosure of the tape had already occurred.
If it's in the public record now, does that mean that the prosecutors will be able to use it? Is it still privileged if we all know about it?
No, generally, you can't put the horse back in the barn or the genie back in the bottle, whatever metaphor you want to use. The privilege would be vitiated or negated at that point, and it would be fair game.
Sure you don't want to tell us anything else?
Well, not tonight.
Michael Avenatti. Thank you. Let's bring in Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com. Also joining us is Joyce Vance, former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama and a professor at the University of Alabama Law School. Both are MSNBC contributors. Joyce, I do want to start with you. Can you help us understand this idea that it could have been privileged and then waived, and where that means this evidence stands now for prosecutors?
So the context for this evidence coming to light was the search of Michael Cohen, which produced a lot of documentary evidence. And he was the first one to raise this idea that some of it was privileged because he was a lawyer, and that Trump as the client would have an attorney-client privilege to assert too. So both Trump and Cohen's lawyers went through the documents and designated certain items as privileged. And you'll recall then that was subject of review by a retired magistrate judge who the district judge brought in. And the reason all of that background matters, Katy, is because somehow we've shifted from this process where Trump and Cohen were asserting that these documents were protected by the attorney-client privilege to this point where we're told tonight, no, they decided we'll just go ahead and waive it and put it out there, even though the judge found in our favor. That doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like there must be something more here that we don't know about yet.
There may be a campaign finance issue with this, Joyce, but at the very least, this does catch the president and his team in another lie. Here was the original denial from the Trump campaign spokeswoman, Hope Hicks, at the time when the Wall Street Journal first reported the payment to Karen McDougal. We have no knowledge of any of this. She said that Miss McDougal's claim of an affair with Mr. Trump was totally untrue. This reporting from the Times has this 2 months before the election, which means that Donald Trump knew about it. They have it on tape. How many legal problems does this pose for the president to be caught in another bald-faced lie?
You know, legal problems will depend on whether or not there is all of the elements of this crime of campaign finance fraud are met. There's a lot of specific intent that you would have to be able to prove as a prosecutor. It'll depend in large part on the transactions and some very specific details. As for telling another lie about women, I almost think that this sort of a problem is already baked into the president's poll numbers and the reaction that his base has to him, and they'll shrug it off as just another woman and just another lie.
Politically speaking, Jason, is this a better topic for the president than the Helsinki meeting?
No, no, because honestly, Katy, it's all problematic for the president. Not with his base, as the other guest mentioned. Like his base thinks that he walks on gold and that he's magical and nothing he ever does is wrong, and that, you know, Obama is hiding in the closet recording all this information. But the rest of the country gets tired of it. And the issue that Trump has always had is that whether it's Russia, whether it's an affair, whether it's not draining the swamp, whether it's saying something offensive or racist or jailing children, at the border of the United States, eventually it just makes Americans think, what is this guy actually doing? Is he really lowering my taxes? Is he really doing anything about jobs? And that hurts the president with independence. And that's where that's going to end up being an issue later on this fall, because if independent voters think that the Republican Party and Trump aren't getting anything done because they're caught up in scandals, they're going to vote Democratic and it'll be part of the blue wave.
What about Michael Cohen, Jason? Michael Cohen now, it seems like he's more willing to talk to prosecutors than he was a few months ago when he was talking about taking a bullet for Donald Trump. Now he's telling Reverend Al Sharpton that his family comes first and being a patriot comes first.
Yeah, not going to jail comes first for Michael Cohen. Like, it's amazing to me to watch so many of the members of Trump's team realize what an unloyal and worthless guy he is to try to take a bullet for. I mean, everybody starts with the shaggy defense, if it wasn't me, and now people are turning around and saying, oh yeah, he's dirty, just like I said. Michael Cohen recognizes that Donald Trump will not help him, Donald Trump will not back him, and he has to release whatever information it is that he can to get himself out of trouble. And this is also important to remember with what Giuliani said. The Trump administration, whether it's in politics or lawsuits, has consistently lied about information. Every time there's a report from the Senate Committee on Intelligence, Trump says, oh, this proves there's no collusion. Giuliani says every bit of information, oh, this proves Trump didn't do anything wrong. They're habitual liars. So more likely than not, if they're opening their mouths, this is something dangerous and they're trying to spin.
Jason and Joyce, thank you very much. And coming up, what does this new tape of Donald Trump mean for the many investigations into the president's actions?